What's up, everybody? I'm Wetzel from Attack Attack, and I'm here chatting with livemusicTO.
So this tour is almost over. How has it been for you guys co-headlining? You would say probably.
I mean, it's been great. One of the coolest parts about it is that, you know, because we're co-headlining Skip the Fate and us, we just sort of pooled our resources and got a bunch of really shiny toys. Pun intended, because one of those things is a huge light rig. So it's been nice, and it's been a lot of fun because we're all friends and stuff and just kind of hang out. So it's definitely been really killer.
Yeah. Speaking of friends, you guys previously toured together in this tour in '09 and also '09 Warped Tour. How is it getting to be back on tour with the band of the Escape the Fate? And you've changed a lot, both of your bands, since then.
Yeah, I mean, it's always refreshing to go on tour with people that you already know and like already have established relationships with, so you don't have, you know, every time you're on tour with bands that you've never been out with before, there's always a couple of weeks of just kind of awkward stare downs, like, are these people cool? I don't really know. So when you go out with people that you're actually friends with and know previously, it makes it so much easier to sort of like jump into it and have a bunch of fun. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool to sort of come back and see where each of our bands have been from when we toured before, and then like really see the progression and the change in both of our groups this time around. It's just kind of, it's like a really cool kind of, I don't even know what you would call that, but kind of a comparison, I guess.
Yeah. You haven't been back here since the Summer on Warped Tour. How does it feel getting to get back to this market and see if there was like maybe a bigger fan base since Warped Tour even?
I mean, this is our second time ever playing in a club in Toronto, and I remember the first time we played I think it was an upstairs venue here.
Annex Rec Room?
I don't remember exactly.
Annex or Sneaks, probably. Those are the only two upstairs.
I don't know. Maybe that might have been Montreal. I mean, either way, it was the same size. But we played a really small club last time we were here, and it was, you know, it was really off the wall. Like, it was super sweet, and so it was just kind of cool to come back and play a much larger venue, and still have a lot of the same, you know, a lot of that good energy. Like, everybody's super into the show. Like, hearing the crowd, like, yelling and screaming the words. Like, it's just really, you know, refreshing to sort of leave the boundaries of the United States and encounter people that love the music too.
So you guys recently dropped off Rise Records. How was that process for you guys, and maybe a bit more on why you guys chose to do that?
We actually just got to the end of our deal with the label. We were only signed on for 3 records, and This Means War was the 3rd of those 3. So really, we just kind of, you know, the deal ran out, and so we're still just kind of figuring out what exactly our next move is going to be.
Do you think you'll sign again, or are you going to try to stick it out independent for a while?
I don't know. Definitely in the last 2 years, for sure, there have been a lot of huge sort of power shifts from, you know, labels to artists. You know, our band sort of grew out of the MySpace generation, you know, and we definitely, I don't think we would have been noticed if it weren't for, you know, the huge impact of social media, like social networking. And so with that being said, in the time that happened until now, only more power has been given to artists and bands to actually put out their music. Like, you know, we could go to TuneCore and write a record and put it up on sale, and it's for sale globally. Like, we can sell our music on a global scale, you know, by ourselves, no problem. And then getting into doing it commercially isn't a whole lot harder. You know, when you're a local band, you just pay to have CDs printed. Yeah. But if you're an established band, you pay to have CDs printed, then you have stores that want to buy them to sell them. You know, so it's just kind of like, with that in mind, where do we sort of go from here? Like, do we want to continue to be independent? And I think that we want to stay as independent as humanly possible, just because we don't like being told what to do.
So you guys are already going back to into the studio. As a matter of fact, you had to unfortunately cancel a South American tour because of it. What was the sudden urge to get back right away? And considering these days it pays more to tour than to like, you're getting more money out of touring than record sales.
We're trying to change that. We're trying to change that. We're gonna definitely make a big shift in the way that we operate, you know, as a band and as a business as well. And our main motivation is that, you know, we don't now that we don't have any ties to the like music business, essentially, we don't have any. There's no structure to what we do anymore. So we wanted to get back in the studio as soon as possible, and we were going to start working on our 3rd record for this year, actually. And our idea is to just put out as much music and just move and evolve and create as quickly and as fluidly as possible. I'm not saying that we'd sacrifice the quality of the music for how quick we can put it out, but we want to make sure that the band itself continues to be new and fresh and interesting and reaching out and going places that it hasn't gone before. And so with that being said, you know, we really wanted to take touring and sort of make that a backseat to that, because it's possible to tour your band to death.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
We've been there. And you know, we're just feeling super creative and super empowered by being, you know, free agents again. We just want to just blaze a trail.
Can you tell us how the new music's gonna sound? If it, like the progression of it, if people will be surprised?
I have no idea how to explain it. We have written a lot of different types of music this year. We started off by recording This Means War, which is obviously a much heavier concept record. And it's very aggressive, but it's also very melodic. And then immediately after we finished that record, we went in and recorded a whole record with John Feldman that we currently have sitting around that none of you know anything about yet. And it is sort of the, you know, twin of This Means War, but like, you know, the girl twin, you know what I mean? So it's much more
poppy?
It's much poppier, like it's much more
bringing back more of the techno electric.
Yeah, there's a lot of electronic stuff in it, and you know, now what we're doing is we're gonna go back in, and we felt that was a little too far off to another direction. We felt that This Means War was taken in, had an amazing impact, and like the response we got to it was huge. So what we want to do is we want to bridge the gap between the two, and so that's our main motivation to go back in, because we really want to maximize the choruses, the melodies, the hooks, like the, you know, the melodic aspect of our music, but we want to make sure that we retain a new, like, fresh type of heavy. You know, not just like chugging breakdowns and stuff, but really melodically super heavy stuff. You know, like Rage Against the Machine, for instance, just like riffy heavy.
Favorite moment so far touring in 2012?
My favorite touring moment so far in 2012 is definitely, we played our first headlining show in Washington, D.C. We've never played in that city before in our entire career, which is pretty incredible.
You're a very Americana style band, like even back at Warped Tour with all the other stage setup.
Oh yeah, you know, we definitely rep our crew, if you will. And so we played at this venue called the 930 Club. It was the first time we'd ever been there, and it was at, you know, towards the end of our last headlining run, January and February. And the show, I don't know, we were all just really feeling it, and the show was packed. And I don't know, it was just like the chemistry was just perfect in this place. Like the atmosphere was perfect, like the kids were perfect, everything about it, like the way we performed, the way we gelled on stage, like everybody was actually interacting with each other, which like doesn't really happen very often, but it was on just a new level, and it was the most amazing show we've ever played in our entire career. And we played a lot of shows, and it was so just amazingly impactful and inspiring that we were just like, all of us were just stoked. We were just buzzing, and all we could talk about was how awesome that show was, and like, what did we do, like, how can we make it like this every night? But it was just, you know, it was pretty ridiculous. I know it's kind of lame, it's hard to explain, but it was just like an electrifying show, and it was epic.
Sounds great. Wish I could have been there.
Yeah.
I get this question a lot from people. Like, a lot of fans complain when tours don't come up to Toronto or up to anywhere in Canada. Like, I know people were complaining that you're headlining tour with Sleeping with Sirens and all that. Did you come up here? Can you give some insight to people that maybe don't know more of the business side? What goes into deciding if a tour will come up here or any market? You know?
There are a number of factors. In our case with the tour with Sleeping Sirens and Ghost Inside, the reason why that one didn't come up here is because this one was.
Okay.
And one of the conditions for this tour was that we couldn't compete with that one. You know, so that's one of the things that can happen. Another thing is, you know, sometimes guys and bands do things that are, you know, frowned upon or called crimes. And you know, sometimes they get turned away at the border, sometimes people know they can't get across.
So they don't.
Other times, it's really expensive to come up here, believe it or not, because there's a lot of, you have to broker your, you know, your merchandise. If you're bigger and have a truck like we do, you need to like get forms, you need to broker your gear, and you have to front money for that, and you know, it gets really expensive. And if you want to bring like a really super quality show up here, you have to be pretty well established to like, you know, really bring a tour like we would have in the States for relatively cheap up to here. So some bands just straight can't afford it. Other bands don't have passports. You know, sometimes people don't even know what the hell that is, and they're just like, I don't know how to go out of the country. You know, there are a ton of factors, but the most common one is that we book tours super far in advance, which is something that's gotten more popular in the last couple of years. When we started touring, it wasn't like that. We could book tours last minute and just go for it. But now it's like we're finding ourselves booking 9 months in advance. So a lot of the times it's because there'll be no competition clauses with other stuff. You know, with Warped Tour, you can't compete with their stuff, like radius clauses, all that stuff. So that's the majority of it.
And the final question, you guys are going to be on the Screaming Like You Mean It tour this summer. Dates are being announced tomorrow. Who's the band you're most looking forward to meeting or seeing, maybe for the first time, or just getting reconnected with?
We have seen and met every single band on that tour, I think. What I'm most excited about is when the two combine, we're going to be watching Chariot every weekend, and I'm super stoked about that.
Band and a hella good band live.
Yeah, so we're just stoked about the whole tour in general. I mean, it's a killer package. There's a bunch of, you know, great bands, like We Came as Romans, Woe Is Me, you know, Abandon All Ships. Like, the package is just stacked. And so it's really, you know, it's definitely a privilege to headline that tour, and it's super exciting because we know a lot of those guys, and you know, we're friends and been out on the road, and I know that tour is going to kill it. It's going to be super sweet.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for your time. Have a good rest of tour and good summer.
Thank you.
Lost control again.